They say every fortune has a body count. I used to think that was dramatic, poetic exaggeration. Then I learned what my father actually built his on. 3 in the morning. Marcus Chun hasn't slept through the night in 6 months. His penthouse overlooks the San Francisco Bay. $18 million worth of plate glass and silence. He's staring at his laptop at an email with no subject line. Just 16 characters of code. Code he wrote in 2010 when he was hungry and Viridia Systems was 6 months from bankruptcy. The algorithm was elegant, beautiful even. Facial recognition married to geolocation, wrapped in predictive modeling. It could find anyone, anywhere, with 94% accuracy. The Saudis paid $340 million for it. Marcus told himself it was for border security, infrastructure protection. He knew better. We always know better. Diane Kowalski has spent 43 days tracking a pattern. She's a journalist who still believes in patterns, which makes her either noble or obsolete, depending on who you ask. Her Chicago apartment looks like a crime scene, maps pinned to walls, red string connecting faces. 17 people. Dead across 3 years. Dissidents. Activists. Journalists like her. All in countries friendly to American interests. All killed with surgical precision. She found the connection last Tuesday. A digital signature embedded in surveillance footage from Riyadh. A watermark invisible to human eyes, but detectable through spectral analysis. For lines of code. A fingerprint. And it led back to San Francisco. If you're hearing this right now, help me prove something wrong. My mom thinks I'm wasting my time doing this, but if you subscribe, it reminds me that I'm not. Ethan Chun discovered the same code by accident. He wasn't supposed to be in the legacy systems. He was just a summer intern. His father's attempt at reconciliation after Ethan dropped out of MIT. But Ethan's good with code. Better than his father ever was. And he recognized the architecture, the targeting parameters, the kill chain automation. He walked into his father's office on the 42nd floor without knocking. Slapped down 60 pages of printouts. "This is yours," he said. Not a question. Marcus looked at the code. Looked at his son. 22 years old. Still believes in right and wrong like they're fixed coordinates. "It was legal," Marcus said. 17 people are dead. Not our problem. The space between them wasn't measured in feet. It was measured in everything that doesn't fit into quarterly earnings reports. Senator Claudia Reeves called 30 minutes after Ethan left. She doesn't make social calls. "I'm hearing concerning rumors," she said, her voice smooth as silk over steel. "About legacy audits. About journalists asking questions." She paused. "The Armed Services Committee meets next month. Viridia's renewal contract. $2.3 billion. It would be unfortunate if complications arose." Marcus understands leverage. The senator's campaign received $6 million from defense contractors last cycle. Half of that from Viridia. Democracy is just capitalism with extra steps. Across the street, in a coffee shop that closed 2 hours ago, Yuki Tanaka sits in her car. She worked AI ethics at Viridia for 4 years. She signed the NDAs, took the stock options, told herself she could change things from inside. Then she saw the audit reports, the foreign deployment logs, the mortality correlations. She watches Ethan exit the building, jacket collar up against San Francisco wind. He's carrying something, a hard drive in a messenger bag. She recognizes the walk of someone who just made a decision they can't unmake. Yuki pulls out a burner phone, texts a number she's memorized but never saved. The son knows, and he's not staying quiet. 2 miles away, Diane Kowalski's phone buzzes. An unknown sender. She reads the message twice. Looks at her evidence wall. At the faces of 17 dead people. At the pattern that's starting to look like a conspiracy. She opens her laptop. Types a name, Ethan Chun. The algorithm doesn't forget. And neither do the sons of men who built their empires on precision-guided death. There's a moment when knowledge becomes burden. When knowing something transforms from power into liability. Ethan Chun crossed that line at 9:47 a.m. in a Berkeley coffee shop, talking to a cryptographer named Dr. Sarah Vance. She examined his code for 11 minutes. Didn't say a word. Just traced the logic trees, the decision matrices, the automated targeting protocols. Finally, this isn't defensive infrastructure. This is an assassination engine. Whoever wrote this knew exactly what it would be used for. Ethan had hoped she'd tell him he was wrong, that he'd misunderstood, that his father was just a businessman who got unlucky with how his product was deployed. Dr. Vance handed back the printouts. "I'm sorry," she said, and those 2 words confirmed everything. Diane Kowalski watched the meeting from 3 tables away. She's been tracking Ethan for 2 days. Not difficult when someone doesn't know they're being followed. She waited until Dr. Vance left, slid into the empty chair across from him. "You're Marcus Chen's son," she said. Not a question. Ethan looked up, saw a woman in her 50s with a journalist's eyes, the kind that catalog everything, forget nothing. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. And you're trying to figure out what to do about it." She placed a business card on the table. Chicago Tribune. Freelance now, but the credentials were real. "I've been investigating your father's company for 8 months. I have 17 bodies. You have the code that killed them. We should talk." He didn't pick up the card, but he didn't leave either. Marcus Chun sat in a conference room with 3 people who didn't offer their names. The firm was called Sentinel Strategic Solutions, an irony he didn't appreciate given the project name. The woman leading the meeting had the calm efficiency of someone who'd orchestrated coups in countries most Americans couldn't locate on a map. "Your son is the primary vulnerability," she said, sliding a tablet across the table. Photos of Ethan, his movements, his contacts. He's met with Dr. Sarah Vance, a cryptographer with DoD clearance. He's carrying encrypted drives. He's exhibiting classic whistleblower behavior patterns. "He's my son. He's a security breach." She tapped the screen. "We can handle this several ways. Legal intimidation, financial incentivization, reputational containment, a pause, or more permanent solutions." Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. He's 22 years old. 17 people were younger. The woman's expression didn't change. "We're not making moral judgments, Mr. Chun. We're managing risk. Your decision." That night, Ethan returned to his apartment in Oakland. A studio near BART. Cheap. Temporary. The kind of place you live when you're figuring out what comes next. The door was locked. Nothing appeared disturbed. But his laptop was at a slightly different angle. His notes were in a different stack order. He checked the hidden camera he'd installed above his bookshelf, a precaution that felt paranoid until it wasn't. The footage showed 2 men. Professional. Methodical. They'd photographed everything. Copied his hard drives. Left no trace except the one they wanted him to find. A business card on his pillow. Sentinel Strategic Solutions. A phone number. Nothing else. The message was clear. "We know what you know. We know where you live. We can reach you anytime." Yuki Tanaka had been planning this meeting for 6 weeks. Every detail. The location, a hospital parking garage in Daly City. Lots of foot traffic, hard to surveil. The time, shift change, maximum chaos. The handoff, documents in a manila envelope. No electronic trail. Diane arrived exactly on time. Journalists and engineers share that trait. Respect for precision. Yuki handed over 4 years of internal Veridia communications. Emails discussing foreign deployment optimization. Audit reports with sections redacted by legal. Financial transfers to shell companies in Dubai and Geneva. And a memo from Marcus Chun himself, dated March 2010. "Client use case is not our concern. Our concern is performance metrics and contract renewal." "Why now?" Diane asked. Yuki looked at her hands. "I told myself I was gathering evidence, building an airtight case. But really, I was just scared. Then I saw the Senator's committee schedule. They're renewing Veridia's contracts next month. Another 5 years. Another generation of this technology. I can't." Her voice cracked. I can't keep watching the pattern repeat. Diane understood. Complicity is like compound interest. It grows silently until the weight becomes unbearable. Georgetown, 9 p.m. A restaurant where senators dine without reservations. Senator Claudia Reeves sat across from Marcus Chun in a private room where conversations disappeared into wood paneling and bourbon. "You have an Ethan problem," she said, cutting her steak with surgical precision. "And Ethan problems become our problems very quickly. I'm handling it. Are you? Because I'm hearing he's met with journalists, with cryptographers, with people who don't understand discretion." She set down her knife. The Armed Services Committee doesn't react well to scandal, particularly scandal involving foreign assassinations and American defense contractors. Marcus felt the trap closing. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting that sometimes family loyalty is a luxury we can't afford." She smiled, the kind of smile that never reaches the eyes. "The firm you hired, Sentinel, they're very good. Let them do what they do. And when this is over, we'll have a nice clean contract renewal. Everyone wins. Except my son. Your son made choices. We all make choices." She raised her glass. "To choosing wisely." Marcus didn't toast. But he didn't refuse either. And in that silence, Ethan's fate was quietly negotiated between entrees and dessert. Washington, D.C. in January is a city of ghosts and monuments. Diane Kowalski stood outside a townhouse in DuPont Circle, watching a woman who used to have a brother, Amira Khaled. Her brother Rashid was a Saudi blogger. He wrote about corruption, about oil wealth concentrated in royal hands while citizens suffered. He died in Riyadh 3 years ago. Gunshot, close range, in his apartment. No suspects. No investigation. They said it was a robbery, Amira told Diane, hands wrapped around tea that had gone cold. But nothing was stolen. His laptop was still there. His phone. His watch. She looked at photos on the wall. Rashid smiling. Rashid at graduation. Rashid, who would never age beyond 31. He told me 2 weeks before he died that someone was following him. That his location kept appearing in places he'd never been. Like something was tracking him, learning his patterns. Diane showed her the code signature, the Viridia watermark. Amira stared at it for a long time. An American company did this. An American company made it possible. The difference felt technical. The grief was identical. Ethan Chun spent 3 days creating his insurance policy. 7 encrypted drives. 7 different locations. 1 with his roommate. 1 in a safety deposit box. 1 with a lawyer in Oakland who specialized in whistleblower protection. Each with instructions. If I disappear, if I die, if I stop checking in, release everything. He sent his father an email. Subject line, "We need to talk." Body, "I know what you're planning. It won't work." The response came 4 minutes later. Just an address. A time. Nothing else. Dr. Sarah Vance died on a Tuesday. Highway 101 southbound morning commute. Her Tesla veered into a concrete divider at 73 miles per hour. The police report said brake failure. Mechanical malfunction. These things happen, especially with complex electronic systems. Diane got the news from a former colleague at the Tribune. She sat in her D.C. hotel room and traced the timeline. Ethan meets with Vance on Monday. Vance dies on Tuesday. The symmetry was too clean. She called Ethan. "Don't drive anywhere. Don't get in any cars. Don't trust any electronics you didn't personally secure. It's too late for warnings," he said. His voice sounded older than 22. "She's already dead. Then don't be next." The package arrived at Marcus's office by courier. No return address. Inside, 8 by 10 glossy photographs. Dr. Vance's Tesla wrapped around concrete. Emergency responders. The coroner's van. And a single sheet of paper. Consulting fee, $400,000. Problem resolution confirmed. Additional services available upon request. Sentinel Strategic Solutions. Marcus stared at the photos for an hour. He hadn't ordered this. Hadn't authorized it. He'd said to handle the situation, yes, but he'd meant legal threats, financial pressure. Not this. Not a woman with a daughter in college and a Volvo in her driveway and a life that ended because she examined 16 lines of code. He called Sentinel. I didn't approve this. The woman's voice was patient, clinical. You approved solutions to security vulnerabilities. Dr. Vance was a vulnerability. Past tense. If you'd like to micromanage tactical decisions, we can amend our contract. But that's not why you hired us. He hung up, looked at his reflection in the window. 47 years old. Built a company from nothing. Created jobs, innovation, wealth. And now he was staring at photos of a dead woman who'd made the mistake of telling his son the truth. Yuki Tanaka's apartment was empty by Thursday. Diane knocked 3 times. Called her phone, disconnected. Asked neighbors. They'd seen her leave with 2 suitcases at 4 a.m. One neighbor, an elderly man who noticed everything, said there'd been a black SUV parked across the street for 2 days. It left the same morning Yuki did. Diane stood in the hallway and felt the investigation slipping through her fingers. Whistleblowers going dark. Sources dying in accidents. She'd seen this pattern before. In Chicago, covering mob trials. In Syria, tracking war crimes. The machinery of power protecting itself. She returned to her hotel room and built a new evidence board. This time focused on Senator Claudia Reeves. 8 years on armed services. 14 defense contracts approved under her watch. Campaign donations from Viridia. $6 million. From Lockheed. $4.2 million. From Northrop Grumman. $3.8 million. From 6 other companies with documented foreign deployment irregularities. $18.5 million total. And in every case, the senator had blocked investigations, dismissed whistleblowers, ensured contracts renewed without meaningful oversight. The pattern wasn't just about Viridia. It was systemic, industrial. A machine designed to convert American technology into foreign body counts, while insulating everyone involved from consequence. Marcus and Ethan met in a park. Neutral ground. Crissy Field, with a Golden Gate Bridge turning rust red in sunset light. Marcus arrived first. Ethan 10 minutes later, hands in his hoodie pockets. I'm offering you $50 million, Marcus said, without preamble. Structured as a trust. You never work another day in your life. You travel. You build something. Anything. Just not this. You think I want money? Everyone wants money. I want to sleep at night. Ethan pulled out his phone. Showed his father a photo of Dr. Vance's accident scene. Did you order this? Marcus looked at the image. At his son. It's more complicated than. It's not complicated. It's binary. You either killed her or you didn't. I hired people to protect the company. What they did was your responsibility. Ethan's voice cracked. You built the weapon. You sold the weapon. You killed the people who tried to expose the weapon. And now you want to pay me to forget the weapon exists. He put his phone away. I'm not you. Then you're a fool. Because this doesn't end with justice, Ethan. It ends with you in a car accident. A suicide. A mugging gone wrong. You think releasing evidence protects you? It makes you a liability they have to eliminate. At least I'll die clean. Marcus watched his son walk away. Watched him disappear into fog rolling off the bay. And understood, with absolute clarity, that he'd lost the only thing that ever actually mattered. There's a restaurant in Georgetown where power brokers meet every 3rd Thursday. Not listed on any reservation app. No website. Just a number you call if you're the kind of person who has the number. Diane Kowalski sat across the street for 11 hours with a telephoto lens and a notebook. She photographed Senator Claudia Reeves arriving at 7:30 p.m. Then the CEO of Lockheed Martin. Then Marcus Chun. Then executives from 4 other defense contractors whose names appeared in her investigation. Not a coincidence. Not a social dinner. A coordination meeting. One of Diane's sources, a staffer who'd quit the senator's office in disgust, had provided 3 years of the senator's private calendar. The official one showed constituent meetings, committee hearings, fundraisers. The private one showed this. monthly dinners with the people she was supposed to regulate, dates that aligned perfectly with contract approvals, with investigation dismissals, with whistleblowers suddenly losing their security clearances. The pattern was a machine, well-oiled, generational. Marcus Chun tried to fire Sentinel Strategic Solutions on a Wednesday morning. He called the number, told the woman he was terminating their contract immediately. There was a pause, then laughter. "Mr. Chun, you misunderstand the nature of our relationship. We don't work for you anymore. We work with you as partners. I never authorized what you did to Dr. Vance. You authorized solutions. We provided solutions. The method was implementation detail." Another pause. "But let's discuss what really concerns you. You're now an accessory to vehicular homicide. Your communications with us are documented. Your payment is documented. If we're investigated, you're investigated. If we're prosecuted, you're prosecuted. We're bound together now, Marcus, for better or worse." He felt the walls closing in. "What do you want?" "Continued cooperation. The senator has additional concerns. Your son's activities. The journalist. The former employee. These are ongoing vulnerabilities requiring ongoing management. I won't let you touch my son." Then he touches you. And everyone goes down together. Your choice. The line went dead. Marcus sat in his office and understood what people meant when they said, "The cover-up is worse than the crime." Yuki Tanaka's voice was different when Ethan finally heard from her. Harder. More careful. "I can't tell you where I am. But I'm safe. FBI protective custody. I gave them everything for years of documents, communications, financial records. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because the FBI doesn't move until they have ironclad cases. And I needed you visible, active, drawing attention while they built the investigation." A pause. "I'm sorry. You were bait." Ethan processed this. The senator knows. She will soon. They're requesting her private calendars, her financial records. They're building a RICO case, organized criminal conspiracy. Viridia, Sentinel, the senator, 3 other contractors. The whole network. How long? Weeks. Maybe months. Federal investigations move slowly. Her voice dropped. "Ethan, you need to be careful. Cornered animals are the most dangerous. And you just cornered a U.S. senator with presidential ambitions." Senator Claudia Reeves sat in her Georgetown townhouse with her chief of staff and her personal attorney. The attorney was explaining exposure in calm, clinical terms. "The FBI has Tanaka. They have 4 years of Viridia internal documents. If they obtain your private calendar, they can establish pattern and coordination. If they access your campaign finance infrastructure, they can trace money flows. If they flip Chun or any contractor exec, they have direct testimony. So we clean house," the senator said. "We establish alternative narratives. Chun goes from partner to rogue actor. Tanaka goes from whistleblower to disgruntled employee with credibility issues. The journalist goes from investigator to conspiracy theorist. We need to control the story before it controls us." The chief of staff leaned forward. "What about the son?" The senator considered this. "He's the weak point. Young, emotional, easily discredited. We paint him as mentally unstable. Family conflict spiraling into false accusations. By the time his evidence surfaces, nobody believes the source." Her attorney nodded. "I'll draft the opposition research file. We leak it strategically. Washington Post first. They'll fact-check, but run with the human interest angle. By Monday, Ethan Chin becomes a troubled kid with daddy issues, not a credible witness." The senator smiled. Democracy is just crisis management with better PR. Ethan sat in his apartment and made 3 phone calls. New York Times, Washington Post, ProPublica. Same message to each. "I'm sending you encrypted files. They contain evidence of a U.S. defense contractor selling assassination technology to foreign governments, with knowledge and protection from a sitting U.S. senator. You have 72 hours. If none of you publish, I release everything publicly and you all look like cowards who got the story first and buried it. He hit send on 3 separate encrypted emails. Then he waited. The counterattack came faster than expected. By Thursday morning, articles started appearing. Not in major outlets, in political blogs, fringe sites, places that traffic in innuendo and half-truth. Marcus Chen's troubled son, a history of instability. MIT dropout's wild accusations against father's company. Tech Air's bizarre conspiracy theory. The stories referenced medical records that didn't exist. Quoted former friends who'd never met him. Described a pattern of attention-seeking behavior and delusional thinking. All carefully constructed. All designed to poison the well before the real story broke. Diane recognized the strategy immediately. She'd seen it used against whistleblowers in Chicago, in Afghanistan, in every investigation that threatened powerful interests. Destroy the messenger before the message arrives. She called Ethan. They're building a narrative. Don't respond. Don't defend yourself. Don't give them ammunition. They're calling me crazy. Let them. Your evidence speaks for itself. The code is real. The deaths are real. The senator's calendar is real. Truth doesn't need you to be perfect. It just needs you to be accurate. What if the papers don't publish? Then we find another way. But Ethan, she paused. If this goes public, your life changes forever. You become the person who brought down a senator, a defense contractor, a network of people with unlimited resources and no conscience. They'll come after you for years. Lawsuits, harassment. Worse, Dr. Vance is dead because she looked at my code for 11 minutes. 17 people across 3 continents are dead because my father wanted a bigger boat. I don't get to choose safety anymore. That option expired the moment I understood what I was looking at. Diane heard something in his voice she recognized. The sound of someone who'd crossed the moral event horizon, who'd seen the machinery of power up close, and decided they'd rather burn it down than stir it. Okay, she said. Then we burn it all down together. Marcus Chun received a call Friday evening. New York Times. They had questions about Project Sentinel, about foreign deployments, about mortality correlations, about his relationship with Senator Reeves and campaign donations and contracts approved without oversight. No comment, he said. Mr. Chun, we're running a story in 48 hours. With or without your perspective. This is your opportunity to provide context. He hung up, poured scotch he didn't taste, looked at his reflection in the window. A man who'd built an empire and lost a son and made a deal with people who killed for efficiency. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. The only way out is through. Sentinel. But Marcus was starting to realize there was no way out at all. Sunday morning, 6 a.m. East Coast time. The New York Times website updates with a story that will end careers. The headline is simple. U.S. defense contractor sold assassination technology to Saudi Arabia. Senator helped cover it up. Below it, photos of the code. Diane's victim timeline. Yuki's internal documents. Senator Reeves's private calendar, showing meetings that never officially happened. And Ethan's analysis, vetted by 3 independent cryptographers, proving beyond technical doubt that Viridia's algorithm was designed for targeted killings. Marcus Chun read the article 3 times. Each time, the walls closed in further. His phone started ringing at 6:07 a.m. and didn't stop. Board members, investors, lawyers. The stock was already plummeting in pre-market trading, down 43% before the opening bell. By noon, Viridia had lost $8.2 billion in market capitalization. By evening, Marcus Chun had lost everything he'd spent 25 years building. Senator Claudia Reeves stood at a podium in the Russell Senate Office Building, surrounded by American flags and carefully positioned supporters. Her expression was righteous indignation perfected over 2 decades in politics. These allegations are categorically false. A desperate smear campaign orchestrated by a troubled young man with documented mental health issues and a vindictive journalist with a history of sensationalist reporting. She looked directly into the cameras. I have never in my entire career acted improperly regarding defense contracts. I have never conspired with private contractors. And I will not be intimidated by conspiracy theorists who traffic in lies. Behind her, 3 senators nodded in synchronized support. The Senate protects its own. Always has. I'm calling for a full investigation, not of me, but of those making these false accusations. We need to understand who's funding this attack. What foreign interests might benefit from destabilizing American defense infrastructure. This isn't journalism. This is information warfare. It was a masterclass in deflection. Turn victim into villain. Turn evidence into conspiracy. Turn truth into partisan warfare. Diane watched the press conference from her hotel room and felt familiar rage. She'd seen this play before. The powerful don't admit guilt. They attack credibility, question motives, muddy waters until truth becomes just another opinion. Her phone rang. FBI. Ms. Kowalski, we'd like you to come in for protective custody. Why? Because Sentinel Strategic Solutions has a history of eliminating witnesses. Dr. Vance wasn't an accident. And you're next on their priority list. Marcus Chun sat across from 3 FBI agents in a San Francisco field office. His lawyer had negotiated immunity in exchange for cooperation. Full disclosure. Complete testimony. The only path that didn't end in prison. Tell us about Sentinel Strategic Solutions, the lead agent said. And Marcus talked. For 6 hours. About how he'd hired them to manage reputation issues. How they'd escalated from legal intimidation to murder without his explicit authorization, though he admitted he'd been willfully blind to their methods. About the senator's involvement. The coordination meetings. The quid pro quo that had sustained Viridia's contracts for 8 years. She knew, Marcus said, voice flat with exhaustion. She knew about the foreign deployments, the mortality data, everything. And she protected us because we protected her campaign infrastructure. The agent slid a document across the table. Sign this. It makes your testimony official. And it makes you a cooperating witness against a sitting U.S. senator. Marcus signed. Betrayed the senator to save himself. In the calculus of survival, loyalty is always the first casualty. Yuki Tanaka sat in a Senate SCIF, sensitive compartmented information facility, facing 12 senators from the Intelligence Committee. No cameras, no press, just classified testimony that would shape what happened next. She walked them through 4 years of internal Viridia communications. Showed them the code architecture, explained how the targeting algorithm worked, how it learned patterns, predicted locations, optimized kill windows, how it was never designed for infrastructure protection, how everyone involved knew exactly what it would be used for. Ms. Tanaka, a senator from Tennessee, asked, "Why should we believe you? You signed NDAs, took stock options, profited from the very thing you now condemn." "Because I was complicit," she said quietly. "I told myself I could change things from inside, that I could make the technology more ethical. But there's no ethical way to build assassination tools. There's just profit and death. And I chose profit until I couldn't live with myself anymore." The room was silent. Truth has a particular weight that bullshit can't match. Diane Kowalski was leaving her hotel Tuesday night when she noticed a car. Black SUV, tinted windows. Same model that had followed Yuki. Same positioning, far enough back to seem coincidental, close enough to maintain surveillance. She changed direction, walked into a crowded restaurant, out the back exit into an alley. The SUV was waiting. 2 men got out. Professional, calm, the kind of calm that comes from doing terrible things efficiently. "Ms. Kowalski, we'd like to have a conversation." She ran, not gracefully. She was 54 years old with bad knees and decades of desk work. But she ran through D.C. streets, through metro stations, into crowds where witnesses and cameras made murder complicated. She made it to a police station, told them she was being followed, filed a report, called the FBI contact who'd offered protective custody. "I'm ready now," she said. Because the story had broken. But breaking a story and surviving it are different things. Ethan Chun received an email Wednesday afternoon. No sender name. Subject line, a better path. The message was simple. You've made your point. The story is out. You can walk away now as a hero or stay and become a target. We're offering you $100 million, structured through offshore accounts, completely untraceable. In exchange, you publicly recant. Say you were wrong about the code analysis. That family conflict clouded your judgment. That you regret the damage to your father's company. You get wealth, freedom, a clean slate. Your father gets his company back. The senator gets her reputation. Everyone wins. Refuse, and we proceed with alternative solutions. You know what those look like. We're giving you 72 hours to decide. Choose life, Ethan. Choose wisely. He stared at the screen for an hour. $100 million. Safety. A future. All he had to do was lie. Say 17 people didn't die. Say his father's code didn't kill them. Say power and profit matter more than truth. He thought about Dr. Vance. About Amira Khalid, who lost a brother to an algorithm. About the machinery that converts human life into quarterly earnings. He wrote back one word, no. Then he forwarded the email to the FBI, the New York Times, and his lawyer. Evidence of witness tampering, bribery, obstruction of justice. The machine had offered him an exit. He chose to jam the gears instead. At the Justice Department, an emergency meeting convened. Attorney General, FBI Director, White House Counsel. The Viridia case had metastasized from corporate scandal to constitutional crisis. A sitting senator. Defense contractors with classified clearances. Foreign governments. 18 deaths across 3 continents. We need to move carefully, the Attorney General said. Senate has constitutional protections. Speech and debate clause. We can't just indict a sitting senator without ironclad evidence. We have ironclad evidence, the FBI director replied. Chen's testimony. Tanaka's documents. The private calendar. Financial transfers. Pattern of coordination. This is RICO. Conspiracy. Accessory to murder. Politically, it's a nightmare. Half the Senate will defend her. Frame this as partisan persecution. Presidential election in 2 years. Every calculation says we should wait. The FBI director leaned forward. And while we wait, how many more people die? How many more whistleblowers get silenced? How many more sentinels operate with impunity because we decided justice was politically inconvenient? The room went quiet because that was the real question. Not whether Senator Reeves was guilty. Everyone in the room knew she was. But whether the system had the courage to hold power accountable. Outside, Washington continued its ordinary business. Lobbyists lobbied. Campaigns fundraised. Senators postured. The machinery of government turned like it always had. But somewhere in the gears, something had broken. And no one was quite sure if it could be fixed. The federal grand jury handed down indictments on a Friday. Senator Claudia Reeves. Conspiracy to obstruct justice, accessory after the fact to murder, wire fraud, RICO violations. Marcus Chun, conspiracy, obstruction, securities fraud. 3 Sentinel operatives. Murder for hire, witness tampering, racketeering. The press conference was standing room only. The U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia stood at the podium with a carefully measured tone of someone making history. No one is above the law. Not senators. Not billionaires. Not corporations. Today's indictments demonstrate that the Department of Justice will pursue accountability regardless of position or power. Beautiful words. American mythology at its finest. But Diane Kowalski had covered enough trials to know. Indictments aren't convictions. And convictions aren't justice. The Senate Majority Leader held his own press conference 2 hours later. This is a politically motivated witch hunt designed to intimidate members of Congress who dare to support American defense interests. We will not stand for this assault on the separation of powers. Within 48 hours, Senate leadership introduced legislation to restrict DOJ funding, framed the Viridia prosecution as executive overreach, turned constitutional crisis into partisan warfare. Because that's what Washington does. Converts accountability into ammunition. The system was fighting back. It always does. Marcus Chun took the stand on a Tuesday morning in February. Federal Courthouse, Eastern District of Virginia. The gallery was packed with journalists, law students, and people who'd lost family members to algorithms they'd never understand. His lawyer had negotiated a deal. Full testimony in exchange for reduced sentencing. 20 years reduced to 8. Still prison. Still consequences. But survivable. The prosecutor walked him through everything. Project Sentinel. The Saudi contracts. The targeting protocols. The mortality data they'd reviewed and ignored. The senator's involvement. The Sentinel escalation from legal threats to murder. Mr. Chun, did you know your technology would be used to kill dissidents? Marcus looked at his hands. At the titanium wedding band from a marriage that ended because he'd chosen Viridia over everything else. Yes. And you proceeded anyway? Yes. Why? He was quiet for a long time. Because I told myself it wasn't my responsibility, that I was just building tools, that how clients use those tools was their choice, not mine. Because the money was too good, the contracts too valuable, because I'd built something from nothing, and I wasn't going to let moral complexity destroy it. He looked up, met the eyes of people in the gallery. I was wrong. And 17 people died because I chose profit over principle. The courtroom was silent. Confession doesn't undo death. But it's a start. Ethan sat in the gallery and watched his father destroy himself. Watched him name names, provide dates, explain the machinery of corruption in technical detail. Watched a man who'd once seemed invincible reduced to just another criminal trading testimony for leniency. He felt nothing. No satisfaction. No vindication. Just the hollow recognition that his father was finally telling the truth. And the truth was exactly as ugly as Ethan had feared. After court adjourned, they made eye contact across the room. Marcus nodded. Ethan didn't nod back. Just stood and walked out. Because some distances can't be crossed, even with confession. Diane's investigative series ran across 6 weeks. Viridia was just the beginning. She'd found 12 other defense contractors with similar patterns. Technologies sold to authoritarian governments. Mortality spikes following deployments. Senate committees approving contracts despite documented human rights concerns. A systematic conversion of American innovation into global oppression, all protected by campaign donations and classified briefings. The series won awards, got millions of views, changed exactly nothing about how defense contracts were approved. Because the machine is bigger than any investigation, bigger than any prosecution. It's institutional, generational, built into the architecture of how power sustains itself. Senator Claudia Reeves went to trial in March. The evidence was overwhelming. Marcus's testimony, Yuki's documents, the private calendar, financial transfers proving coordination, email chains discussing problem management days before Dr. Vance died. The defense argued she'd been deceived, that contractors had acted independently, that her involvement was administrative, not criminal, that prosecuting a senator for exercising oversight responsibilities violated separation of powers. The jury deliberated for 9 days, convicted her on 12 of 14 counts. The judge sentenced her to 18 years in federal prison. She showed no emotion, just straightened her American flag lapel pin and walked out flanked by marshals. Her Senate colleagues issued statements. Half condemned the verdict as political persecution. Half praised the justice system. None of them mentioned the 17 people who died, or the systems that made their deaths profitable. Within 6 months, 3 other senators with nearly identical campaign finance structures were still chairing committees, still approving contracts, still having private dinners with defense contractors. The machine had sacrificed one part to save the whole. 6 months after the verdict, 3 people sat on a bench in Golden Gate Park. Fog rolling in off the Pacific. Joggers passing. Dogs chasing tennis balls. Ordinary life continuing like nothing had happened. Ethan looked older. Not physically. Time doesn't work that fast. but his eyes had the weight of someone who'd seen the machinery up close and understood its permanence. "My father starts his sentence next month," he said. 8 years. He'll be 55 when he gets out. Yuki sat quietly. She'd used her immunity to disappear. New name. New city. New career far from technology. "Do you talk to him?" "No. He writes." "I don't respond." Ethan watched fog obscure the bridge. "I don't know if that makes me principled or cruel." "Maybe both," Diane said. She'd aged too. The investigation had cost her professionally. Too controversial, too politically fraught. Major outlets wouldn't touch her work anymore. She was back to freelance. Back to obscurity. We got the conviction. We got the truth out. Did it matter? Yuki considered this. 17 families know what happened to their loved ones. That's not nothing. But the system's unchanged, Ethan said. Viridia's technology is still deployed. Other contractors are still selling to the same governments. The Senate still approves the same contracts. We burned down one house while the neighborhood stayed intact. Diane pulled her jacket tighter against the cold. I've been doing this 30 years. Covering corruption. Exposing criminals. Watching some of them face consequences. And you know what I've learned? Justice isn't a moment. It's not a verdict or a headline. It's accumulated pressure over time. We added pressure. Maybe someone else adds more. Maybe eventually the whole thing collapses. Or maybe it doesn't. But we don't get to know the ending. We just get to do the work. They sat in silence. 3 people who challenged power and survived, but barely. 3 people who told the truth and paid for it in different currencies. Ethan's phone buzzed. A news alert. Another defense contractor under investigation for foreign deployment irregularities. Different company. Same pattern. The machine evolving, adapting, continuing. I got accepted to a PhD program, he said quietly. Computer ethics. I'm going to study how to build accountability into algorithmic systems. Make it impossible to use AI for targeting without triggering oversight. That'll take years, Yuki said. I have years. Diane smiled. Tired but genuine. Then maybe it did matter. Not the way we wanted. Not with the dramatic reformation and systematic change. But we're still here. Still fighting. Still refusing to accept that profit matters more than lives. She stood. Extended her hand. It was an honor working with you both. Even if it cost everything. They shook hands. 3 people bound by what they'd seen and what they'd done about it. Not heroes. Not martyrs. Just humans who'd chosen truth over comfort and survived with scars. Ethan watched Diane walk away. Watched Yuki check her phone and make arrangements to disappear again. Watched fog consume the Golden Gate Bridge until only the towers remained visible. His father had built an empire on death and called it innovation. The senator had enabled it and called it patriotism. Sentinel had executed it and called it business. And Ethan had stopped them. Partially. Temporarily. At great cost. He pulled out his phone. Opened his father's last email. Unread for 3 months. It said, I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. But it's true. Ethan stared at those words. At the apology that came too late to matter. Too calculated to trust. Too honest to completely dismiss. He didn't respond. Just closed the email and walked into fog, carrying the weight of what he knew and what he'd done about it. The algorithm doesn't forget, but neither do the sons of men who built their fortunes on precision-guided death. And that memory, that refusal to accept profit as justification, might be the only justice that endures. If this story made you think differently about technology and accountability, consider subscribing. This channel explores the hidden costs of American power, the stories that don't make headlines but shape our world. More investigations coming soon. Thanks for watching until the end.